with RBL1 Live. Today we have a special guest, a friend of mine as well, Sherman Williams. He's managing partner at the Academy Investor Network, also graduate of Booth, University of Chicago Business School, Navy, U.S. Navy, former U.S. Navy officer that has served for over 7 years and has worked in investment banking at William Blair, among others. So thanks for joining us today, man.
Yep. Glad to be here, man. It's always
Great.
good. Always good to catch up with you.
That's right. So I want to dive right in and can you share a little bit more with the audience about what is the Academy Investor Network?
Yeah. So the Academy Investor Network. So part of my educational background, the beginning of it was actually NATS and then the Naval Academy. So that's how I got going. And the Naval Academy and all the 5 100% publicly financed institutions is who our platform services. So those are graduates of the Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, Merchant Marine Academy. That was such a unique and seminal experience in the lives of the graduates of those services. And then of course, we go into some pretty unique careers after we graduate. So the Academy Investor Network is a syndicate platform for Service Academy graduates to invest in veterans, that's officer and enlisted, as well as civilians in the government technology sector. Okay, so when it comes to veterans, we're industry agnostic. We believe we're putting down our marker and making the assessment that when it comes to early stage venture, and we'll be investing in early stage venture, we bet the jockey, not the horse. So we feel like that leadership, determination, and grit, and that drive are the most important attributes when it comes to the success of an early stage startup. And when it comes to veterans, who better to vet whether or not that veteran who has a startup, officer enlisted, has those key attributes? Who's better to assess that better than other veterans who are actually Service Academy graduates? So that's our thought process there. And then when it comes to civilians in the government technology sector, again, of course, civilian, that means we'll take anyone who is building companies whose products will go back into defense and intelligence agencies, government logistics / procurement departments, emergency management organizations like a FEMA at the state or federal level, and then muni police and firefighting agencies. Those are some of the key areas that will be focused on from a civilian standpoint. Also, I should also mention, of course, cybersecurity is such a big area. So that's what the Academy Investor Network is. We'll be investing from the pre-seed through the Series A level, and we will be trying to show deals to our graduates that we feel they have a unique ability to diligence. So of course, the graduates of our institutions are, intelligence officers. They are a lot of pilots. They are nuclear submarine officers. They are they officers on aircraft carriers, as well as other, that's basically a floating airstrip. But there are officers on actual warfighting ships like destroyers. They are, infantry officers, et cetera. So we're going to be showing them deals that they have a unique ability to diligence. And then another unique thing about our Service Academy graduates is that, their education is heavily STEM focused, science, technology, engineering, and math. So even if you're an English major, you're taking EE, you're taking thermodynamics, Calc 1, 2, and 3, you're still doing that. So what we feel like our graduates have a special ability to vet frontier technology deals, and they're operating some of the most complex equipment in the world, during their time as officers in the military. So we're effectively tapping into the collective wisdom of that group to help with diligence. And then myself and my staff at AIN will be bringing kind of that business overview to that diligence. And we think the combination of those two things, the technical abilities and the business abilities, that we have will enable us to make the right investments and achieve superior outcomes and returns.
So you need to be a Service Academy graduate in order to be a member of the Academy Investor Network. But on the other side, from the founder side, are you only investing in Service Academy graduates as well?
No, we're investing in all military veterans. Doesn't matter. As long as you're a military veteran, we will invest in you. And that's to include merchant mariners. So that's and Coast Guard, who are not technically in the military until in the time of war. Coast Guard and even the merchant marines can fall under the Department of Navy. It's a legal stipulation, right? So we will invest in veterans of Coast Guard and former merchant mariners. But any veteran, officer, enlisted, it does not matter. And we'll also invest in civilians as long as those civilians are in the government technology sector. And what we mean, and I'll further clarify there, what we're looking for are actual dual use technologies. So we don't want necessarily their primary technology. We don't want their primary customer to be the government. We actually prefer it if the primary customer is not the government, but we like it if the government is a large customer. So we're thinking like at scale, the government represents about 20 to 30% share of the revenue, and then the rest of the revenue is outside the government.
Great. And no, the reason I bring that up, because some angel groups that may be similar, they may just limit to their alumni, but they open to invest in everyone. And that's what it sounds like you have. You have a particular focus. You'll invest in civilians as well, but it has to be aligned to the thesis. So.
Yeah, because and the reason it definitely has to be aligned to the thesis at this time, right? I mean, and the reason why is because, look, you have wonderful. I mean, we probably from a university system in the United States, we probably have arguably the number one in the world. With the Ivies and then the great Midwest and West Coast institutions, and even the state schools. I mean, like a University of Michigan, University of Virginia, when those are outstanding institutions. But the unique thing about Service Academy graduates is that you don't have with these other institutions. They graduate and go do wildly different things. We graduate, we're mainly going into combat armed professions. Or you're going into supply corps, you're going into logistics for the government, right? For the Navy or military at large, or you're going into, but for the most part, people are going to be pilots. They're going to be on ships. They're going to be on submarines, et cetera. So, we have a group of grads. What they do is very concentrated, and we feel that we actually can utilize that to our advantage. That's our assessment.
Great. And I want to take a step back and hear a little bit more about Sherman. Like, how did you go from Booth, MBA, and jumping into finance to being, I want to start the Academy Investor Network. Can you share a little bit more about that journey? Yeah.
So it's been quite a journey. It's been fun though. It's been ups and downs, but it's been fun. So I knew absolutely nothing about finance whatsoever at all. Coming out of the academy, I was a bit of a knucklehead, a bit of a rebel by academy standards, probably not by outside the academy standards.
Yep.
Academy chafed on me a little bit. But I really took a liking to the military once I got in. Actually, after, it was pretty funny. First got in, when first became active duty officer, I was kind of like, man, I don't know about this. I don't know. My first deployment, I took a liking to it. I mean, it took them, 4 or 5 years to brainwash me, but they finally got me. I really enjoyed going on deployments. And, we were wartime. We were, my class of 2003 at the academy, we graduated. I think we went into the invasion of Baghdad, I believe was in March of 2003. We graduated in May of 2003. We had already been in Afghanistan for a couple of years at that point. So that was the environment we went in. Mind you, when I went to the academy, 99, it's peacetime, you're thinking about it, but you're like, you couldn't have imagined what eventually transpired, right? I think, from my journey, when I went into the academy towards, and then coming out, and then after that first deployment, I was just kind of, I went from a point where I wasn't really feeling it at all. I was a bit of a knucklehead, definitely a knucklehead, not a bit. And then to the point where I just really took a liking to it, after that first deployment. When I got ingrained in intelligence, I really started to like the military. I felt like I was kind of peeking behind the curtain. I had had some good jobs there in Intel, and I really enjoyed that community. I think the Navy Intel community is like got to be one of the better communities in the military. So I'm giving you that backstory because I barely got out. So I got out. I was at a point where there's some additional to make the officer 4th level in the military, in the Navy, and I think it's the military in general. You have to do some advanced education beyond a bachelor's degree. So it's either joint professional military educational training or you get a master's degree. And I was an Intel officer, but I wanted an MBA because at that point in my life, I'm about, 27, 28 years old. It started 20, actually a little bit before that, actually, probably about 25, 26 when I started thinking about it. And you're like, well, what am I going to do with a national security degree or, a degree in international relations, a master's, where I go work for the State Department? I was like, I think I may want a career in business. I started investing money because, my class at the academy, a lot of us went on a lot of deployments. So we're in wartime, you're constantly deploying, you're saving money. I'm smart enough at that point in my life to actually invest that money. And that's what actually got me interested in finance. And I was basically like, I want to get an MBA. The Navy said no. And we have a saying, the Navy stands for never again volunteer yourself. Navy decides on what you will do. The Navy always wins. My community in the Navy was really small. I knew my detailer pretty well. It's like, hey man, I think I want to get an MBA. He was like, we're not paying for that. It's just not happening. I was like, all right. I got in, applied to business schools, got in, matriculated to the MLT program, actually. So that helped out as far as getting into business school. And then I got in the booth, hit my detailer up again. Said, hey man, got in the booth, University of Chicago. I don't really want to get out the Navy. I don't think I'm liking I'm liking my job and I'm liking what my future career could be. But I really want to get this MBA. And he's like, man, I told you before, Sherman, we're not paying for an MBA, but he was like, man, the Navy will be here, he's like, that's a good school. My detail was like, man, that's a good school. I don't know if I were you, I may go. Right. He's like, so I got out, and I wouldn't say I have never looked back. I actually liked my community in the military. I still, for a couple of years, it felt good to just not live under a regime I had lived under at that point for half my life. I went into the military at 17 years old. I basically got out at 30. So that's almost half my life. So for a couple of years, it just kind of felt good. But I will be honest and say I actually started to miss it. Mm-hmm. So, but I
now you're back.
Say again.
Now you're back in a different way.
I'm coming. I realize I'm being long-winded. I'm coming around to that. But so I went into the University of Chicago. Before business school, actually, I think it was in 2008 when Elon did it, September of 2008, I believe, is when they got the first SpaceX rocket successfully off the ground. It was that and a culmination of a couple other things got me really interested in investing and even more. And I found this world of venture capital. And I went to Booth. I wanted to be a venture capitalist. When I got there, people were like, hey, man, that's really difficult to do with your background where it is to date. So, you should think about maybe banking or consulting or whatever. Booth was one of the best decisions I ever made. I love that institutions. I actually was able to intern at a VC fund and intern at an investment bank. When I got to the investment bank, I realized how much I didn't know. And I ended up actually going banking after business school. And went at William Blair, and I was only going to stay in banking for like a year and a half, 2 years. I ended up staying 6. I ended up staying that long because first of all, I got there and realized, my God, how much I don't know. This is crazy. And I took it on as a challenge. I'm an extremely competitive person. I took it on as a challenge to kind of catch up to my peers. Don't know if I ever did, but I did learn a lot, right? And I definitely 100% stayed way too long to do what I'm doing now. I had those skill sets probably at about year 2, year 3 of banking. But I never lost eye of moving into VC. The original thing I wanted to do when I went to Booth. I started investing in startups while I was in banking. And then I actually left banking in the beginning of 2019. Things just, I left at that point. At that point, I had probably made about I was trying to think about that. I made about 4 or 5 angel investments at that point. And then I did some syndicates after banking in the beginning of 2019. Was able to get with a small fund where I did a little bit more work, Supernode Ventures here in New York City. And then I found, reconnected with some old Service Academy grads, and they gave me this. They came to me with this idea of Service Academy grads investing back in Service Academy grads, and I was like, oh, that sounds like alumni venture group.
Yep.
And and then they asked me, hey, what would this look like if you kind of dove? What do you think this should look like? So I kind of ideated with them over the course of probably about 5 or 6 months. And finally, they told me, hey, if you will kind of run with this, you and who is now my co-founder will run with this, we'll back it. And that's how we came to the Academy Investment Network.
That's awesome. And a great fit for, your love of your love of service, and then now you're back in.
I've been feeling for years. I've really been missing that service piece. When I was in banking, I focused on healthcare investment banking, and I felt it was a bit altruistic, and maybe I felt I was somewhat giving back. I'm backing companies that are really, saving human lives. It's a bit of, it's very, it's a way to justify your existence, I guess. But it felt better than being, I don't know. So I don't want to disparage anyone else, but there are other types of banking, and I felt healthcare felt a little bit more impactful to me, right? But I really have been missing that service piece. And so this allows me to combine that passion with finance, that camaraderie that I had, being a veteran, being a Service Academy graduate, and that passion for investing, kind of combine all those things together in one platform.
And that's great. I want to push on it. I know you made the story sound, like it all fell together, and and it was a beautiful path for those looking to start funds, and or angel syndicates or and enter the investment space. What were some of the challenges along the way, and how did you make it through?
Yeah, so this is something that I've wanted to do for so long, and I have, due to this pretty much is owed to the military. I was given a good degree of self-confidence from my parents, 100%. But the military challenges you, and you're vetted in a mental and a physical way. And I know the military it definitely 100% gave me the confidence. I can make it through anything a man had put me through on this earth. And I believe that today, right? I'll put it this way: I definitely won't quit. I may fail, but I definitely won't quit, right? And I've been vetted, I've been tested from that perspective. And so I wanted to do this for so long. And you're absolutely right. The road has been bumpy. And the road has been bumpy. It's been unique. I think it's not a unique thing, a bumpy road with respect to getting into VC, but I have my own unique issues, as we all do. And that has made it, made it somewhat difficult for me, I think. I wouldn't say difficult, but things didn't go as swimmingly as I would have liked them to go, right? As far as, getting to where I'm at now. So what was that? Well, the earlier you figure out what you want to do, it probably will smooth your path later on, because you're mission driven from the beginning. So first of all, if you want to be an early stage venture, you probably don't need to be in banking for 6 years. I would argue that you definitely don't need to. I would argue that I do think some sort of financial acumen is good. And if you're really keen on that, so be it. But I would say stay in banking for 1.5 to 2 years, and you should punch from at that point. Um, and then you'd probably be better going to like a larger tech firm, or actually, I'll take that back. A tech firm is an easy transition from that point, is an easier transition. But the best thing will probably be go to a early stage, high growth startup, right? If that's what you want to do, and then actually start to angel invest or get involved with your local accelerator / incubator program somehow, some way. And I did not do that, and I subsequently suffered for it. The other big thing that you can do is start to go out and gather mentors. And I think one of the things I struggle with personally is getting mentors, right? Finding people to help you and mentor you. I can be stubborn. I'm, ex-military guy, I don't know, right? But you just kind of don't ask for help that much, right? And you're like, hey, my thought process is I get in there and I'll just outwork everyone there. And that's just not how some of these industries work, particularly venture capital, because it's a network business, it's a networking business, it's a people business, it's a human capital business, right? Heck, in early stage venture, there's not even much to bet on, right? So you're betting on the person. So in all aspects, our business is a human capital business. And I think that other people who are coming up, they would benefit from trying to get some mentors early on in the venture capital community, if that's the job you want to do. And if you want to start a company, get some entrepreneurial mentors, right? I think that's really important. And there are some things I could have done early on, and that made my road a bit bumpy. But I'm never going to quit. I haven't even made it. We literally publicly launched, May 27th, 2020. This is seen many years in the future, if possible. So I, just recently launched the syndicate publicly, me and my team. And, we are, the road has not been smooth, and I don't think it's going to be smooth. I have my own issues. I think everyone else is going to have their own individual issues. You just have to be truly committed.
Awesome. And in that commitment, and talking a little bit about the vision of why you set it up the way you did, can you talk about where do you envision the Academy Investor Network going? Like, what do you want an idea? You're where you are now. You're building. You've come a long way. You're in venture, and then what does it look like, and where are you marching toward?
Initially, in the beginning of our existence, and we're only a couple of days old publicly right now, we are an investment syndicate for Service Academy graduates. We're investing through SPVs. Through the life of the Service Academy Investor Network, we will invest via SPV. So every single deal we do, as far as the initial check, we will open up to fellow Service Academy graduates from those 100% publicly financed institutions. But we will, in short order, and I'm expecting to do this after the elections in 2020, to presidential elections in 2020, to raise a dedicated fund in order to anchor each SPV. So that's what we will do. The syndicate is really to proof of concept, get the wheels turning on our organization internally, and making sure we're tracking. That dedicated fund that initial dedicated fund is for the purpose of anchoring each SPV, so we can guarantee, okay, we can bring each deal $300,000 or $400,000 worth of capital, and then we'll raise whatever else we can raise from our syndicate members. For longer term, I do plan on raising subsequent dedicated funds, and the next dedicated fund will be so that we can guarantee the percentage ownership that we get with that initial check in each deal. So that's kind of where I see the Academy Investor Network going. I also see a format where we either sponsor or we start our own incubator program for pre-seed companies from a product building standpoint. That's something else that I'm fairly keen on. And ultimately, the Academy Investor Network is an integral part of the veteran venture ecosystem. And we're bridging folks from, we're investing from the pre-seed through the Series A stage. Our sweet spot will be at the seed stage. I live in New York City. I spend a great deal of time in California. I was in California Navy. I love that place. I'll be back and forth between the two places. And as part of this venture ecosystem, we are a place where Service Academy grads can get exposed to the venture asset class. We're a place where civilians in GovTech, as well as veterans, industry agnostic, can receive capital. And then we are that bridge for those people we're giving capital to. We'll have the connection to help them raise that Series A, Series B, and follow-on funding. Because I think that's where a lot of veterans struggle at right now, is getting that follow-on capital. And we help make them look the right way, so that they can raise that subsequent follow-on capital.
Great, I love it. It's not only helping veteran founders, but also investors, building that community and driving impact in that way. So that's great. Can you share, we're in just in terms of the time of pandemic, instead of asking, more of what the challenges are, because I think we're aware of them, what are inspiring stories of you've worked that you've seen in the founders that you've worked with during this time?
So the biggest things that I've seen during this time are, as far as, let me answer your question directly, as far as founders, is really just that kind of grit and that determination. We were in probably one of the best economic environments in our history prior to COVID. And we have been in an amazing economic environment since pretty much, you could argue, since like 2014, 2015 timeframe. It's to see those folks make those decisions. And see, I'm very big on, I learned this when I was in the military, my first command actually. I study leadership. I believe leaders are made, not born. And you have to be decisive as a leader. You're not always going to be liked as a leader. I know I haven't always been liked as a leader, and I've had some people I think that love me, right, as a leader. And I really am interested, just intellectually curious about people that have to either go right at the fork or left at the fork, right? Okay, and maybe they decide to go in the middle and cut both ways, or they decide to go right, or they decide to go left. And what made them make that decision, and if they acted decisively and quickly, and how they articulate to that to their team. I've been inspired by seeing founders who have been very quick to do that. And then I've also been disappointed by people who have not been able to make that decision, because all of my fellow Service Academy graduates, we've been put in those positions before. Some of us in positions where, it was a life or death situation. And we had to make a decision. We subsequently made a decision. It's been really cool to see how that's worked out in the civilian world. And then the other thing too is, this is not life or death. With respect to your company, COVID is 100% life or death. But, with respect to your company, it's not necessarily life or death. But, so for me, it's really interesting to see particularly the civilian founders, make these decisions, because it can feel life or death to them. But I sit back and I say, yeah, it's not quite, but it still matters to me. So I don't know if that my answer makes sense, but that's just been cool to see people just like truly the heart. As Ben Horowitz talks about wartime versus peacetime CEO. People transition to be a freaking wartime CEO and truly making decisions, even if it's going to hurt people's feelings. That's been cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sherman, for sharing some of your story and the kind of vision of where the Academy and Investor Network is going. So everyone watching, this is RBL1 live, and our guest that just joined us shared a story. Sherman Williams, thank you again for joining us, and again, stay tuned every Tuesday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So thanks again, Sherman.